Now, today what we're going to do is I'm going to read a story to you. We're going to have some talking about the story. And that's because we're great readers. Can you tell me what great readers do? Do you know? Great readers. What do they do when they're reading? What do they think about and what do they do? Lachlan?
They read books.
They read books. Think. All the way through the book, I'll call it. It doesn't have to be a book, it could be something online. It could all the way through the writing, because that's what we're reading, isn't it? All the way through. And great readers do all sorts of different sorts of thinking. They think about what might happen next, and they think about, they've got a question, wonder, left with a bit of a wondering, and they think about, maybe if this happened, then that's going to happen. They actually do some inferring. So we're going to have a practice today as we read. I know you're up for it because I can tell you're great readers already. So, Mr. McGee and the elephants. Now, I'm thinking that I've never seen elephants sitting on a chair. I find that's interesting, but I know it's a story, and I know that in stories or narratives that we can use our imagination. So these things are sometimes things that you never thought would happen. So let's see what happens with Mr. McGee and these two elephants. And we also know, if you've read Mr. McGee's books before, what do you know about this tree? Reuben, have you seen it before?
In Mr. McGee, one of the things he lands in there.
He does land. He does all sorts of funny things, but he lives under the tree. So it's a very important part of the story. So let's have a look. Underneath this apple tree, so it's a special sort of tree, underneath this apple tree lives a man called Mr. McGee. He heard a rumbling sound and he felt a shaking of the ground. What might that be? Turn and tell the person next to you. Quickly to your person. Very quick. Tell them. Sorry, Maya. What made you think it might be the elephants? Well, everyone was thinking that. What made you think that?
Because elephants are big and heavy, and when they walk, the ground kind of quakes.
Listen to that evidence that she gave us. I think the elephants, we know that they're big and they probably would make lots of rumbling sounds. So let's see. Mr. McGee. Can you say McGee? McGee. Well done. And they looked up then and they could see someone stuck. It was Mr. McGee. You're quite right. You're doing what great readers do. You're predicting and using the information in the text to help you know what's going to happen. But the other elephants had heard him crash. And when they looked, they saw the splash. Great rhyming. Splash into something that's looking a little bit dirty. So they weren't surprised when he came back covered in mud and completely black. There he is. What is he going to do? Tell the person next to you, what do you think now? You're doing more thinking. Turn around. Make sure you turn, Evan. What do you think? All right, and turn back round again. All right. Evan, did you have an idea about what might be going to happen, or did your partner? Oh, how do you know that? What do you know about elephants that will help you make that inference?
They get lots of water and they put it in the truck and blow it out.
So Evan's seen that elephants can drink water and then they sort of trumpet it back out their trunk, don't they? So he's made a fantastic inference. Poor Mr. McGee was black and smelly, the slimy mud was thick as jelly, and so, with one almighty squirt, the other two got rid of the rhymes with squirt. Dirt. Fantastic. Exactly. Look, Evan was thinking that he knew these elephants could do this. Now, Mr. McGee was very clean. You'd never guess where he had been. Thank you, elephant, said Mr. McGee. please sit down and enjoy your tea. It's time that I was off to bed. It's a very busy day. Oh, can you tell us about your thinking, Simon? You're actually doing what great readers do. You thought, what were you thinking?
I was thinking he was going to get the apples.
Can you tell us what made you think that, Simon?
Because he did the cup of tea thing.
He did the cup of tea thing again. You were thinking that maybe he'd go back and pick the apples he didn't get before.
After the elephant.
And the elephant didn't eat them all, did he? No, but maybe that's the next story that you could write in your writing time about how is he going to get these apples down now? He's tried, and the elephant's tried. So, well, that might be something you'd like to write about later. All right, now that you've done what great readers do and you've done your thinking all the way through the text, in fact, we did do some predicting and some inferring as well. I've also heard that you've been learning lots about something that's in one of these words. Let's look here, Mr. McGee and the elephants. Is there something about Mr. McGee or elephants, and we're talking about letters and sounds now, that you've been focusing on in your word work? Laura?
The PH.
What do you know about that?
It sounds like there's actually an F, but it makes the F sounding like
That's great noticing. Well done. Is there anything else that anyone notices about these words? Maya?
The C in McGee seems silent.
In McGee, we say it very quickly. I like your thinking, McGee. We actually do say them together, McGee. But when we say it so fast, you hardly hear it. Good noticing. Something about the word McGee at the end of the word that you might have been talking about? You've noticed the EE. What do you know about the EE? Sorry.
It's the long E sound.
It's the long E sound. It is. Let's have a look at it. Double E makes the long E sound. I'll just write it up here. And can I write Mr. McGee under here? Mr. McGee. All right. It does make the long E sound. Do we have a long E sound in elephant? Say the word elephant. What does it start with?
E.
Yes.
E.
It starts with the letter E. What can we hear? What can we hear at the beginning of elephant? The very first sound you say, listen, say it to yourself and have a listen. Elephant. Lachlan. It's actually an E. Can you It's sort of like an A, but let's got elephant. It's a short E sound. So did you know that our vowel sounds have short sounds and long sounds? I think you've been learning about it. So can you say e? See how it stops? Just stops. We can't say anymore. We go and there's a stop. Now say E, like in Mr. McGee. E, and it just keeps going. That's a long vowel sound because it keeps going. And so hear the difference? E. Now E. Fantastic. So elephant has got the letter E, but it makes the E sound, and we run it straight into the elephant. We run the E, the E all together. That's the short vowel sound. Today we're going to look at the long vowel sounds, and in this book there are lots and lots of words that have the long E sound. There are so many, I've actually put them all onto cards. And here they are. Let's have a look. I might just read one page and see if you can notice another word. You listen carefully for the long E sound. After they'd sat and drunk their tea. Tea. The word tea. Let me write that for you.
The word T.
T. You know, it's different, isn't it? Because there's a letter T. Here, this letter T, capital T, lowercase t, that's a letter. And now there's the word tea, so you can eat your tea at night or drink a cup of tea. All right, this is the word tea. Which two letters in tea make the long E sound? Do you know? Bernard? Oliver? Which two letters? Here they are. T, E. Let's count the sounds we can hear in tea. T, E. Just 2 sounds, but how many letters have we got? 3 letters, because we need these 2 letters. So these are the 2 letters that make the long E sound in C and McGee, and these are the 2 letters that make the long E sound in T. Great listening. Now let's have a look. I think there might be another page where there's lots of E sounds right at the end of the word. I know you're so good at listening. Here it is. Listen carefully. Poor Mr. McGee, so we've already got that one, was black and smelly. The slimy mud was thick as jelly. Does anyone hear something, Claudia?
Jelly.
Jelly, you're right. Does anyone know how to write jelly? It's a tricky word. Jelly. Which letter or letters is making the long E sound in jelly? Jelly. I can hear E right at the end of the word. Yeah.
Y.
The Y. That's exactly just one letter. Gosh, there's lots of ways we can make the long E sound. All right, I'm going to give you all a word from the story. And every one of these words has a long E sound. When you get your word, I want you to just sit where you are and look at your word and think, what does the word mean? And which are the letters making the long E sound together that have the same letters making the long E sound? So you can stand up and just move around and then find a little place to sit when you get your group together. What have we found on the floor?
Claudia has an EE.
Ah. Have you got a double E? Well, come and sit over here. Make a little group. Double E. Double E. You two have got very important. It's one E saying the long E. Did you know that? Not on the board. You can sit down here and we'll put it up on the board in a minute. Ruben, could you tell us what pattern your group has? EA. So the 2 letters. So you've got this EA in T. All right, what pattern have you got in your group?
Y.
The Y, like in jelly. And what pattern? We've got a different pattern here. Word says? He. And what does your word say? Me. We've got he and me, and we haven't put it on the board over here. Just one E in he and me. So we've got another way of writing the long E sound. So that's going to be a great challenge for you. And what have we got in your group? What 2 letters?
2 E's.
2 E's. The double E makes the long E sound. And what about over? All right, now, what your job is, now that you're sitting in this group, is see if you can think of any other words that have that pattern to make the long E. I've got a board for you. Here's the board. You're going to write your words that you've already got and underline the letters that say the long E sound. Do you know any other words that have this double E sound in them?
I think I say... Oh, I know. Elephant.
That's got the short E, hasn't it? E. So what about the word... What about this word, the buzzy bee that flies around?
Ellie.
Do you know this?
B. B.
See if you can write that. What letter does it start with? Have a go. And you've underlined the letter that makes the long E sound. Now this isn't interesting that you've been talking about here, because you've got he and me and she, and now we've changed to the short et sound. Bet and net and met. Do they sound the same? So you've got you've got the long sound here and the short sound here. That's very clever. I wonder if you could write the word be. I want to be a king one day. Be. I'd like you to leave your board and have a little wander around the room and see if you can notice a word that has your pattern, either E, A, Y. The one E, just have a look at all of the print. You might find a book. Go and see if you can find one more word to add to your board. Leave the boards on the floor. And up you get. I can see people looking around. Have a look in books, maybe in your reading book box. You found one. Tree. Well done. Let's have a look over here, guys. Look what we found for you.
Look what we found.
We found I'm sorry. There, someone can have that for your group. Well done. Wow, let's have a look and see. Oh, you've got green. That's it. Oh, where's the green? Oh, here's another one. Where is the green sheep? You could write sheep. Fantastic. Laura could Simi and Claudia and Laura, can you just tell everybody what you did first? Let's have a look. What did you find?
We said deep. Deep.
What was your pattern? What were the two letters making the long E sound? You tell everybody.
Double E. It was double E.
Double E, and tell us what have you found?
We found green, leaf, tree, and sheep.
Sheep. Which was the best book you found to help you hear?
Where we see
What they had. Where is the green sheep? So they had lots of those E words. Well done. Sit back down.
We found a bee.
And you found B. Oh, which sort of B did you find?
Say the word which we can hear.
What sort of bee? You found B. What does it mean? The buzzy bee. Yeah.
And also, we wrote Reuben's name.
Reuben's name.
Green.
Oh, is that your last name, Reuben? Well, that was handy, wasn't it? Well done. If you wrote his name, you'd have the capital G, wouldn't you, for his name? All right, now, what about the other group? We had another double E group. I've just got to hear from these very quiet people over here who've done some very interesting research. Could you tell us what you've been doing here? What you discovered? You've been finding the long E where there's just one letter E, like in he and me and she and thee and be. And then they started to find all these other words that had just one E, and they were the short sound. It says bet and net and met. So it was an et sound. So that sometimes one E makes a long sound, and sometimes when it's in the middle of a word, it makes the short sound. That was really good noticing, wasn't it? It was interesting for you to find all those things. And then we could actually make a list of all those words up here for later, but we won't do it right. Well, we have to stop this lesson now. So before we do, though, I want you to think about how knowing all of these different ways to write the long E sound might help you as a writer and a reader. So when you go to write the word me, you'll be able to think about, that's just got the one E sound. And when you go to write the word see, the C where you're looking, because this is an interesting word, it's called a homophone. I put the eyes there to help you know this is the C for looking, because this is the C for swimming. All right, that's called a homophone. So sometimes the long E sound can trick us, and we have to know what the word means before we know which word to write.